the meaning of the flag can mean something completely different. Even with the Star Spangled Banner, the third stanza that they don't sing is talking about killing slaves. But that's still in the song. It has not been removed. And for those that may not know what I'm talking about, just to quote it, is no refuge can save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of their grave. That is plain as day, killing slaves. That is in the national anthem. So when I found that out, that made me But if they're trying to, and back to the oppression, and I looked that up, and it says pretty much the definition is prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment. I can talk to a lot of African Americans. I can go back home right now and talk to family members, ask them for their age, and ask them how long they feel like they receive unjust treatment. And you know what their answer would be? My entire life. So if over a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 year period that you feel like you've been treated unjust, whether it's police. Now, all police is not bad. I've said this many a times. But I've also shared numerous stories, and I never shared this with you, but I have on my podcast where one day we was walking home from middle school, me and a couple of my friends. It was cold as get out. We were stopped by the police, walking home with book bags on, ages of 10, 11, 12 in middle school. Advised to take off our coat, take off our shoes, empty out our book bags, because we would, quote unquote, look like we were selling drugs. With freaking book bags on in the middle of the winter. We were advised to take our coats off, shoes, empty our book bags as we sat on the cold pavement for an hour and a half. And I know this because school let out at 3. I didn't get home till 5 because we were sitting in the cold, and I got sick over that. Just off a side story, but that's not it. It's been numerous run-ins I've had with the law just walking up the street. I have a clean record. Josh, I've never been arrested a day in my life. I've never smoked. I've never drunk anything ever. I'm probably the only person I know who can say that. Somebody's tried, so I've never tried anything. But I've had a litany of run-ins with the law where as I was doing absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. Me and my co-host, Josh Smith, we always talk about the story. When we worked with each other at the mall, we was on the way to Charlotte, and we were pulled over. Cop pulled Josh out the car, asked him a couple of questions, told Josh to stay in his car. We wasn't speeding or anything. Josh had a tail light out. Came to my window, asked me the exact same story just to see if I was going to make a lie. And when my story was similar to his, he came back. He was like, oh, so you guys are telling the truth. I'm going to let you go. It's stuff like that. If that happens to you every day of your life, or even once a week, that is absolutely unjust treatment, and that fits the definition of oppression. Now, with these NFL players, yes, it's not happening to them, to the millionaires, which Michael Bennett may have a different story about that, but maybe it's not happening to them. But they have family. They weren't millionaires their whole life. A lot of these people in the NFL, NBA, they come from the hood. This is something that they experience, or if this is something that they witness. Cap, I don't know what triggered Kaepernick to do it. I don't know if it was a situation he had, but something triggered him to say, enough is enough. I don't know if it was all the killings, with the unarmed man, or something triggered Cap to say, you know what, I need to bring attention to this situation. I'm going to take a knee during the national anthem because I know they say this is the land of the free, but a lot of my people are not really free in my eyes, and they are being oppressed. So why not do it on a broader stage? And he said repeatedly, I'm not disrespecting the military at all. I mean, no disrespect to the military. But when you have a lot of people that live that life, as I have, numerous people within my family have, the flag, even going back to slave days, Klansmen didn't always wear swastikas and Nazi flags. They had American flags. Circle back to Charlottesville. They was walking around with swastikas and Confederate flags, but they also had American flags. So that flag doesn't have the same meaning to everybody. Not just black people, but those clowns in Charlottesville. Obviously, the American flag didn't seem to be that respectful to them either, because they was walking around spewing hate with an American flag in their hand. So I don't look at these NFL players as being disrespectful. They're trying to bring awareness, in my opinion. But if you ask me, them clowns in Charlottesville walking around with tiki torches and American flags is far more offensive than somebody taking a knee or holding up their fist.
I agree with you 1,000%. I agree with you 1,000%. And look, that's the thing where we need more of this instead of the insults that are coming, because conversations like this is what breeds understanding.
Yeah.
And even though we're not always going to agree, what we can do, I mean, shoot, I get in disagreements with my own family, for crying out loud. I have members of my own family that I just, they don't want to talk politics with me, and I don't want to talk politics with them because it's just too intense, and we end up saying things that we mean them, but at the same time it creates something that we ultimately do love each other. And I think that's one of the things that we have to figure out, not only individually, but as a country, is what do we deem that is good and appropriate, and what is respectful for our fellow person. Because, and this is the way I always look at it, I always try to take it back to, because ultimately all of us are going to stand, whether you're an atheist or not. That doesn't bother me, because the truth of the matter is we're all going to stand before God one day.
Absolutely.
And we're all going to have to give an account as to how we treated each other, how did we talk to each other, and if there was wrongs, did we ask for forgiveness? If we were right, did we ask for mercy? And did we keep moving forward in the spirit that I'm not going to be with God if I can't love my brother who is here in heaven, who is here on earth? And to me, that is the ultimate test that I have every morning when I wake up. And I think that's something that all Americans need to step back from the feeling aspect of it, because it's so easy. And this is something that it hurts my heart. And I had to tell a guy today on Twitter, you know what, God bless you. And I even called him friend, and he insulted me to no end. Now, he disagreed with some of the things I had to say, but at the same time, the hurtful things that was said, that's more of a reflection on him than it is on me, because we've got to get to a point to where we can talk to each other like you and I are doing, and then let's figure out what our common ground is and move forward with that, and get away from this constantly going back to, what day I long for, quite honestly, Tyler? I long for the day to where we don't refer to each other as black and white Americans, is where we just look at each other as Americans. And we look at each other and say, okay, my brother, what do we need to do to get better with this? What do we need to do to get better with educating our kids, with helping our elderly, with taking care of our veterans, with making sure we've got good jobs and getting people help that need help? You know, those are issues that we need to be talking about and figuring out solutions with, because that's ultimately what's going to save us or going to destroy us, is whether we can see the good in each other and respect our differences, but then adhere to our strengths and be like, you know what, we are better together than we ever are separate. And what scares me is, it's like I said on Facebook, I've got this feeling that everybody's kind of retreating into their corners and digging their heels in, and there's no understanding, there's no communication. It's, you know, well, I'm going to think and feel what I think, and you're going to think and feel what you think, and we just going to fight. And I think that's the wrong approach to take. Now, if it clears the air, I mean, it's like in any family. Sometimes you got to go out in the backyard and kind of fight a little bit, but I just don't want it to get to that point because I think we're past all that nonsense, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to come on with you, is that just because you may vote for a particular person or back a particular person, it doesn't always mean that you agree with everything that they do. And that's something that we got to get away from, because we're getting into this stereotypical rhetoric where now, you know, they're teaching this word white privilege even in schools. Well, I'm looking around, and I looked at my brother the other day, and I said, Jeremy, we grew up in poverty. I was a full Pell kid when I went to the University of Arkansas, and whatever privilege I was supposed to get, somebody left me out of that. You know, because we was on food stamps and SNAP benefits and, you know, all of that stuff. So obviously something didn't happen when I was growing up, because that privilege I'm not familiar with. You know, so I think we've got to get back to where we look at each other as brothers, as we look at each other. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of. And unfortunately, you know, why is it that it takes a catastrophe for us to stop focusing on the stuff that really don't matter? Like, look at how the people came together over Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Harvey in Houston, where it didn't matter what color you are. We're going to help each other because we're all hurting. And why does it take a calamity for us to realize that we're all in this thing together, and we got to figure out a way to make things continue to advance? And I mean, God forbid it takes another world war, you know, whether it's Korea or any other thing, for us to realize, hey, you know what? Somebody's trying to take us over. Let's figure out what we got to do, and then worry about that stuff later. So there are real problems that have to be addressed. There are situations that I agree with you 1,000% that we've got to treat each other better, because in the end, when a calamity strikes, that's all we got. And when it comes down to it, I'm going to trust an American, regardless of whether they're black, white, purple, or whatever. If it's time to go to war, well, then we got to have each other's back. But I don't even want it to come to that, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and with this kneeling stuff, this is not going away anytime soon. In my opinion, what our president said yesterday will probably ignite a flame underneath it. I expect a lot more players to take a knee. And this is the reason why. Just speaking on behalf of Black America, a young black individual in media, I feel like at times people try to silence us. We don't have a lot of opportunities to voice our opinions, to state what we really feel, because half of the time either the opportunity is not there, or when we make an attempt to, we're told that, hey, you need to tone that down. Perfect example, our last podcast that me and my brother did about Michael Bennett. It was called Fit the Description. We was talking about the Michael Bennett situation. I put it out on Spreaker and all over the internet, and I received a tweet from one individual